everyone, and welcome to episode 501 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, kicking things off with the owner of MTGGoldfish, Richard. How you doing this fine Monday, Richard? You look like you might be back home after a couple weeks on the road.
I have a chair. I'm not sitting in a shower curtain. It's good to be back. It's good to be back.
Oh, good to have you back. And we got another co-host in Krim. Good morning, Krim. How you doing today?
Morning. I had a pretty fun weekend. I won my first week of fantasy football. So
Wait,
I'm
who's your
feeling
quarterback?
pretty good. I got Mahomes, but that's because
No wonder
I got
you won your first.
Wait.
No. He actually didn't do that good, and I actually was last pick, and it snaked. So I tried to just draft whatever I could. I went running back heavy first, but
Yeah,
I think my third pick was Mahomes
is the
or
meta
something
not
like that.
quarterbacks anymore? What is the meta? you go
The meta is you got to do
No
running
way.
backs, dude. You
Really?
gotta load up on running backs because there's so few, and then you go maybe a quarterback and a wide receiver or something like that.
You got.
But I
last
loaded
pick
up on two
Mahomes?
running
What
backs.
the heck? What is going on? Okay,
Yeah.
I gotta get back in the fantasy football meta here. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Sounds wrong.
Maybe next year we'll do a goldfish league. That might be
Yo,
entertaining.
a goldfish. Seth, you can't just draft the Bills entirely.
Yeah, hey, I haven't done fantasy football in a couple years, but I've done a lot of fantasy football in the past, and drafting bills is normally the worst thing you can do, honestly. That's my one rule is avoid drafting
Not
bills.
true anymore. I
it's
drafted
gotten
Bo
better.
Nix because I wanted to show love to my Broncos, and hey, though they lost this week, he didn't look bad.
Hey, you got hope, right? Once you get the rookie quarterback in there, even if you do horribly this season, at least you're gonna have hope.
Yeah, that's all I've got.
Anyway, we are not a fantasy football podcast yet, maybe in the future, but for now, we're a Magic the Gathering podcast, and we got a lot to talk about this week because we're in the middle of Duskmourn spoilers. So that's our big topic for today. We got a ton of new cards to talk about, which I'm pretty hyped for because some of these cards, I really want to see what Richard and Krim think of them. Before we get into that, though, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit, and Card Conduit's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. If you ever get tired of the hassles of buy listing, you can skip them with Card Conduit. You can use their curated service where you send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more and pay just a 5% service fee. And if you want to do a bit of work, you can use the sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. Either way, you're going to get a detailed report with the results and a fast payment once your order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, they're the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Magic, and let's jump right into spoilers. We have a pretty huge list of new cards to talk about. So Richard, why don't you take it away?
All right, you can check out all the Duskmourn previews on mtgpreviews.com, and then we'll go over some of the new cards this week. So we're going to kick things off with Meat Hook Massacre 2. Notably, it is not the Meat Hook Massacre, which is the first card. They've omitted the to confuse everybody, but it's the sequel. And we all know sequels are better, right? So Legendary Enchantment.
Hey, aliens. Just saying.
The question is this a trilogy, a quadrilogy, wait 10 years and do the prequels? Like, what is this going to be, right? But
Never
XX,
prequel.
black. So 4 black, double X. When it ETBs, each player sacrifices X creatures. When a creature you control dies, you may pay 3 life. If you do, return that card under your control with a finality counter on it. When a creature an opponent control dies, they may pay 3 life. If they don't, return that card under your control with a finality counter on it.
Okay.
Is this
I think
card good?
let's ask the burning question first off, because it's the first one is the Meatball Massacre. Where is the next progression for this name? And I've declared it is now the Meatloaf Massacre, because that is the natural progression upward.
I mean,
So,
it's
okay,
meatloaf colors. It's meatloaf colors.
Yeah, it kind of looks like meatloaf. And whatever that dude's doing with all those hands and things, you could make into a meatloaf. So sure.
Delicious.
All right. So now that we address the elephant in the room, let's the card itself. I thought Meat Hook Massacre, when that first got revealed, was bad. I thought it was bad. I'm not afraid to admit it. And I was wrong. Okay, I was very wrong. this card, am I going to go guns blazing and say this is hot trash?
Yes.
No.
Wait. What format are we talking about? We're talking about standard?
Oh,
this is unplayable in standard, right?
I think it is. I think it is probably. See, the last time I said it's unplayable, it went on to get banned. So you know what? Why not? We'll run it back.
You think?
Yeah,
you can go four black pips and just play it for X equals 0, untap, and then like rip a Doomblade on something? Is like that
got him?
That worth it?
And then they
like there's no way you're getting to 6 mana, right? Like 6 mana quad black, like that's like rough, right? So
but like
you're hoping for the value play, or like four black
X's
block. That's 6 mana.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
That's
it is
mana.
no. I mean, this format is grindy, right? This format is grindy. You are more often than not going to get to that late game. Yes, maybe this one doesn't make aggro like not exist, but this one does help you grind out. You know, every sequel is always bigger, right? And it's always bigger. And yeah, let's not lie here. That may not always be better, but sometimes it is. And I don't think this is ever better than Meathook Massacre. I'm under no delusion, but I do think this is the hardest read, and it's because it is an enchantment that seems to scale and do an interesting thing into the late game. However, do I think this is standard good? I think either this is medium. It is medium. I think it's going to be a commander like All-Star, though. I think this is a commander All-Star. I think this is great there. I think this is kind of medium in standard.
You're being way too nice, Grim. Sequels always suck. They're always way worse than the original. Very few exceptions to the rule. But in general, the second one, it's just a soulless money grab because people like the first one. So I feel like this card, it seems fun, right? It is fun to like steal your opponent's creatures when they die, get yours back when they die, but it's just so much mana and so many black pips. It's literally double the Meathook Massacre as far as its mana cost. It's like 2 of them stapled together, which is just so much mana. Plus, yes, we're in a grindy standard, but we're in a standard where there's a lot of tokens. So I'm a little worried that even if you do get to 6 mana or 8 mana and try to Edict, your opponent's just going to sack like a token, and that doesn't even come back from the graveyard. So I don't know. If we had Nykthos or something and could play Black Devotion, maybe I'd be more hyped about it. But I feel like in standard, I'm going to go out on a limb and just say I think it's bad. I think it's really good in Commander, though.
Yeah, I think it's absurd in Commander.
What do you think, Richard?
I think it has a shot for standard of being like, okay. I think you really play it for 4 black pips, X equals 0, and then play the board, right? Like they block or you block, and you know, like you know how people used to play Meathook for 2 and then start sacking stuff for fun, right? They had like no intent of, you know, ripping a Meathook for 4 or 6. I think so. If tokens are meta, then this kind of sucks because it doesn't do anything. But if like we're playing with like actual creatures, you can go 4 black pips, which is kind of hard, and then get value. So I could see it maybe showing up in standard. I wouldn't call it unplayable, but it would not surprise me if this like played a role in standard. Commander, I think it's an auto include. Like I think like, you know, we played Decree of Pain, even though people declare it too slow, because you just can't pass up the 8 mana Wrath, draw 1,000 cards.
Gotta draw some
cards. There's another one that like exiles everything and then you can cast them later on. And then this one you can just consider like a 8 mana Wrath, 10 mana Wrath that like gets you creatures and like value later on. So this is
I think
playable.
You're thinking way too hard about this in Commander. This is just Turgid, but harder to kill.
Oh, you're just gonna go 4 black pips and then play like a normal Wrath or something after?
4 mana. Yeah, I would easily pay 4 mana for a Turgid that is a lot harder to remove.
Although people can just pay life so you don't get everything like Turgid. Like even if you make your opponent sack something, they can pay some life to get around it. I still think it's very good in Commander. Plus, like in Commander, remember, you have Cabal Coffers, you have Nykthos. It seems realistic, even though it's really expensive, to actually use it like removal there, which in Standard, it just seems like tough to make enough mana for this to really sweep the board. But in Commander, I think that's pretty realistic. Plus, it just seems super fun to like steal all your opponent's creatures. So even though I don't think it's as good as the original, it might be way more fun to play with, I think, than the original.
You combo it. Four black, one red. You go Meat Hook Massacre 2 Blast Act, and then call it a day.
Oh,
Like,
got him.
but how am I gonna cast this set? There's so many colored. I have to play the Crim mana base of playing like every terrible dual land.
You
in
understand
existence.
now, Obliterator.
No, you just got it. You can play all your colorless lands. Just find Urborg, Richard. You'll be fine. You know how it works. Just find the Urborg and cast it with your Maze
the
of It.
colorless lands help pay for X, right? So I can actually cast this thing for 8. But yeah, interesting. Okay, we'll wait for the return to Duskmourn for Meat Hook 3 to see how we follow this one up. It's just like every player sacrifices himself, you gain control of that player. That's what it's gonna be. You're gonna have to go even bigger.
We're gonna get a one black mana Meat Hook Origins or something. I think it's gonna be the prequel next. We gotta go back and see where it came from.
All right.
Some anime
next
storytelling.
Blaze Mire Verge. We have a whole cycle of dual lands. So this is the Rakdos one. The type is land, so there's none of the actual like basic types on it. You tap to add a black, and then you can tap to add a red. Activate only if you control a swamp or a mountain.
These lands are nuts, right? We like I think this is the fact that this comes into play untapped and already adds a color. Isn't a colors like Tainted Peak, all that stuff. Those old lands from Torment, they added colorless unless you controlled a swamp or something. I think these lands are so good. It now makes Fabled Passage way more important, and the number of like types you've got in lands way more important. But the fact here is that right out the gates, it at least makes a color for you.
I mean, I think they're good. Where do they fit in like the hierarchy of lands? I feel like in Standard they're going to be really good, almost by default, because we need more good lands in Standard. I see people playing Thran Portal or whatever that horrible pain land is. You know that's like mana bases are in a rough spot when you have to play that in your aggro decks. So I think they're going to be really good in Standard. They could have some uses in Modern. They do play really well with fetches, where like once you fetch one, it turns on the future. They seem to work really well in aggro, where if you need that untapped mana on turn 1, like you want to play a Llanowar Elves, your Hushwood Verge is going to give you that mana. So I think they're really good. I don't know if they're like, are they Surveil land good? Are they Shock land good? Like, how do we actually rank these? There's so many dual land cycles. Are they Commander good? Are we playing these in our Commander
These
decks?
are very good in Commander. These are very good in Commander.
They're
above,
like the
they're above
lands, maybe like somewhere in that range. Like
check lands. Right? So
they're just
that.
power crap check lands, right? If you're gonna play
They're
check
also...
land, these are better, right? Because they do the same checking, but it adds a color and it enters untapped, right? The problem is there's not a full cycle, and then you need like a double cycle, right? Because like for example, the Rakdos one adds black, but red has a condition. If your one drop is red, this land is scuffed. You kind of want the opposite of this land too, right? Add red and then add black if you control one of each. So we're actually missing like a lot of these. But there's no way you play this in Constructed outside of Standard, right? Like there's no way someone plays this in Modern.
What? No, I think these are good in Pioneer as well.
Okay, what's the Pioneer? Okay, maybe Pioneer. What's the Pioneer?
Probably.
These are so much better than Pioneer.
So buddy lands don't really see play anymore. They're kind of a thing of the past. I think some decks in Pioneer will definitely want them. Like Pathways still see play in Pioneer. I imagine like so for example, there's a Gruul aggro deck in Pioneer that plays Craghound Pathway. If you look at the deck list, its 1-drops are all red. Heartfire Hero, Monastery, Swiftspear, etc., etc. In that deck, Thornspire Verge, I think is going to be really, really good. But I feel like there's some weirdness here. Like, we know we're getting Llanowar in Standard, right? This is one of my concerns with this land cycle and it being split so far, is I feel like it actually is going to have a relatively big impact on what's viable and not. Like, if you're building a Llanowar Elf deck, you're heavily incentivized to be Selesnya because Hushwood Verge makes untapped green mana on turn 1. You're kind of disincentivized to be Gruul because Thornspire Verge makes red on turn 1 and green in the future. So I feel like it's actually going to have a pretty big impact on what color combinations are viable, especially when it comes to decks trying to play 1-drops like Llanowar Elf.
I mean, well, this is for Standard or Pioneer? Because if we're talking Standard.
I mean, so for standard too, but then in Pioneer, I think like if that Gruul aggro deck in Pioneer was trying to play all green 1-drops like Llanowar Elves
Yeah.
instead of Heartfire Hero and Monastery Swiftspear, then I think Thorn Spire Verge would kind of be trash in that deck. So I think it's very deck dependent. Like, is the untapped mana doing what you need it to do on turn 1 or turn 2? If yes, then they're really good. If no, then I think they're kind of medium. I don't think they're horrible, but I think they're kind of like medium in those cases. Then they're kind of very much like a buddy land in that case, or a check land.
assume right, that like this will eventually get finished, right? The cycle fully finished at that point,
Yeah.
right? Once we have all 10, this effect, the way this land works, do you think it is good or not? I'm not talking about like, 'cause yes, obviously this is a half completed cycle, but I'm talking about the design behind the land.
I mean, it's a quarter completed, right? Because what do we have?
Yeah, I
we
think
have
20.
we have
Do you-
the
oh, yeah.
we have the allied combinations, right? So we're missing
Sure.
the
And we
enemy
need enemy.
combinations, and then we need the reverse of each one. So we still need what Seth is saying is like you still need the Gruul land, but it adds green by default.
But I mean,
But this has always been a problem in standard, though, right? They always give us like half cycles, quarter cycles, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're incentivized to run a certain color combination because you don't have lands for the other combinations. So it's awkward with Llanowar Elf coming to in Foundations that, Gruul kind of sucks, but maybe that's how they're keeping Llanowar Elf balanced. I don't know.
And like for right now, if you look in a Pioneer, Elvish Mystic, Llanowar Elves, that's perfect. They're in like in Angel decks. They go right with, as you had mentioned already, the Hushwood Verge. Azorius Control plays the pathway, the blue-white pathway. So I just think that land is going to be instantly replaced by this.
So I think, so my only concern in Pioneer is, I guess, the other lands that see play in Pioneer. Because if you look at a mana base, so you have fast lands are kind of staples. Pathways are unfortunately kind of staples. Pain lands actually see kind of a lot of play. Those are all lands without land types. So this works really, really well with like shock lands, triomes, surveil lands. So it kind of depends, I think, like if you're playing like Blackcleave Cliffs and Blightstep Pathway and the Pain land, it's just going to come into play untapped or like make the second color. It's always going to come into play untapped, but it's not going to make the second color all that often. So I think they're good. But I don't know. It's been so long since I played Checklands. They've kind of just been power crept out that I'm not sure, like, is this enough of an upgrade to make them staples? I guess my guess would be they're really good in Standard. They see play in Pioneer, maybe have some fringe implications for splashes in Modern, like the Storm deck that wants to splash green in their sideboard to be able to deal with something. This is kind of like a free roll as untap red source that then can make the green later in the game to like play your sideboard card to deal with the hate piece or whatever. So I think it might have some fringe implications in Modern. So that's kind of where I'm at with them. I honestly don't know if I'll play them in Commander. I feel like these might not make the cut for me in Commander. Do you think they make the cut in Commander?
I think they do, but
I feel like for a Crim they will, because you like dual lands way more than I do. Like you play a lot of dual lands, so I think in a Crim mana base I would play these.
How else am I going to cast?
Am I playing Meatloaf Massacre too?
Yeah, how am I going to do that?
I might consider it, but it doesn't have a type. How often do you go down to the check lands and the pain lands like that? If you start playing those lands in your decks, then this would be included. But in like 3+ color decks, I never get there. In 2 color decks, questionable.
In 2 color
depending.
Decks, so good.
Just play basic.
I'd probably play them
right?
in 2 color.
No, because I already play the basic.
I don't believe in basics.
I play like at least what now I play about 4 of each, and then I have my shock and all of the other type lands. But in 2 color decks, I have like in black red, I've gone down to like Tainted Peak.
Yeah. So if you're down there, then this is.
If you're playing Tainted Peak, these are great,
right? Yeah. So it depends on how many duels you actually play in your deck. I actually think these are Modern playable now that I think about it, because Modern is so slow now, and do you know how many times I've been scuffed by the turn 4 fast land?
Yep.
So Blazemire Verge, the Rakdos one, lets me turn 1 Thoughtseize, gives me a dual land, and in turn 4 I can actually play my 4-drop. So, and then life matters, right? Like life actually matters.
Yeah.
So I don't want to like shock everything. So I'm actually gonna try Blazemire Verge. I would like to see the Golgari one, but that doesn't exist. But this can turn one Thought Seize, turn one Lightning Bolt, turn one Rock. Wait, can't turn one Lightning Bolt.
Not
wait
bolt,
a minute.
yeah.
Wait a minute,
I
might
think
be scuffed. I
that's-
don't know, but we're gonna have to try this. But
That's actually why I like the land so much, is because like they seem very skill testing to build and play with, because you have to think through what you were just thinking through. Like, this can cast my Thought Seize, but not my Lightning Bolt. Is it worth playing? So I really love the design on them. And my other question for you is, do you think they finish them soon? Like, are we expecting the rest of these or all of these in like this standard cycle in the next year or so? Or do you think this is like 5 years from now, we'll get another piece of the cycle?
There's no way, right? Like that they make us wait for this for in 5 years.
I
so
think
they're not gonna
it
give
like
us
next
perfect
set.
mana in standard, right? You think they're gonna give us perfect mana in standard? Like, I think you're gonna get another half in like 2 years, and then like 4 years later, you'll get like the other reverse of everything. Like, it's gonna take 3 sets to do all of this.
Hey, that's still technically standard now that it's
That's
3 year standard.
3 years from now, it's still standard.
We gotta keep waiting. We gotta keep waiting.
I kind of expect we get 5 more next set. Not Foundations, but whatever the Death Race set is or whatever. We get 5 more. And then the other like inverted ones, we probably got to wait a while on, I bet. But I bet they finish the 10
Look
card
at like
cycle.
fetch lands or something. Like, they make us wait for a long time. The Battle Bond lands, like they make us wait.
Fetch lands for like a decade.
they make us wait. Okay. Next card, Grievous Wound. 3 black enchantment aura. Enchant player. Enchanted player can't gain life. Whenever enchanted player is dealt damage, they lose half their life. Rounded up.
Richard pointed out where does this design come from, Richard? It's from another game, right?
It's from League of Legends. So when I read this card, I'm like, doesn't this card exist? And it's a mechanic in League of Legends, or it used to, I have no idea. I haven't watched League in a year, but it prevents people from gaining life. So it prevents healing in League of Legends. And the reason it's always a big deal is because after every single pro game, there's some champion that like heals 1 billion times, and everyone's like, why didn't they just get Grievous Wounds? Like, what are they doing? Like, what are these pros? They're so dumb. And I have no idea why they don't do it, but that's like the conversation after every game, where everyone tries to like armchair quarterback the pro players into getting Grievous Wounds. So it does the same thing here. You can't gain life. And it has combo potential, right? I think if you hit 3 or 4 times, no matter what the damage is, someone is dead, right? Because at 20, it takes, it does 10, 5, 3, 2, or something like that, right? So...
And it rounds up, which is huge. Some of these effects round down, and then you can't really kill anyone with them. What do you think of this, Grim? This card, when I first read it, I was kind of like, it seems like kind of a janky, fun card. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, wait, is this card actually busted? Like, if you think about like Iridescent Vine Lasher in standard, or like what lizards do in standard, like these decks that are really good at like dealing 1 damage repeatedly, could this be a standard card, Grim?
So maybe the Sultai or whatever the lands version that's using Lumra and stuff like that could try to use it. My question is, why for 5 mana? I think the cost is what's going to hold it back. There is a black-white, like kind of low to the ground deck that uses like the fairy that keeps bouncing back the 1 mana Nightmare enchantment that makes you discard a card and then
that's
like,
kind of
boost
hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that deck does exist and it's very popular. And the concern, I think this could go in there. But I also think that deck functions on cards that cost 1 to 3 mana, and this is 5. So I think this could just be bulk. I genuinely think this is just bulk.
Yeah, I'm so torn. 5 mana is a lot. It is a lot. That was my gut reaction, was like the card's just kind of unplayable. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, oh, maybe it can be like a combo piece. I don't think you can really play it fairly and just like run it out and trust you're going to get in damage. But I think if you can turn it into a combo kill, maybe there's a chance even at 5 mana. What do you think about it in Commander? Just bad in Commander because it only gets 1 player? Also, why is this not a curse? Isn't this the most cursey card that you've ever seen that is not a curse?
It's a Grievous Wound. It's not a curse.
But the name reads like it's not a curse. But the way it
curse
plays,
of the Grievous Wound.
Okay, I guess
that on
could be
there.
true. But it does, the
think-
way it plays feels like
It play-
curse.
I think they actually asked Mero about it, and he said curses are an Innistrad thing. And they thought it would be weird to do them on Duskmourn because they're tied to Innistrad. So I think that's the official reasoning for why it's not a curse. Would you play this card,
Happen all
Richard?
the time in horror movies.
This card is like the most anti-fun card you've ever seen in your life. You just it's like when you hatred someone for all your life with like your opponent to kill someone. You're just like 5 mana, slap it on someone, and then so if we said it takes 3 to 4 hits in standard, it takes 4 to 5 hits in commander. Right? Because just like 1 extra hit. So Seth is tapped out. I played this Grievous Wounds. Krim hits him with like 5/1/1s. He's dead. Right? I'm like, what the heck? Like, this is stupid. Right? So this seems like the most anti-fun card you can come up with.
Are you kidding? No, this card is fun in Commander. Imagine this.
5 mana,
scenario.
just destroy someone out of the game, but leave everyone else alive.
But think about this. This person, you have played Roiling Vortex, and now you've attached this to them. And so every upkeep, they
lose half their life. I mean, do you play cards like this in Commander? Because the only thing I've noticed about curses is they can be kind of awkward because they just get one player, right? Even outside of just feeling bad about taking out one player, that also does kind of keep their power in check. Like if it affected all your opponents, it'd be a lot more exciting.
If it
is nice
affected
you can take out the
all the
archenemy, I
opponents, at that point, I think then it is just a regular enchantment.
Yeah, that is true.
It would be an enchant world, guys.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Bring them back.
I don't. It cheats the life mechanic. This is the problem, right? Like in Commander, you have more life because you're supposed to live longer. This just means 1 extra hit, right? So it's like the Felidar Sovereign problem or something. It doesn't scale correctly with Commander. I don't like that 5/1/1s can kill someone with Grievous Wound in the same way like Infect can kill someone, right? So this will be incredibly salty because it's like Triumph of the Hordes for one person, and you've enchanted them, and they know you've done it. So I don't really like this card, but I'm sure we get some lulls out of it. I mean, it's great where you have an archenemy that's clearly winning, maybe like a dirty Thoracle player, and you put it on them, and the table collapses. But more often than not, like the mana screwed person gets a Grievous Wound on them. They like wait,
They should
wait.
run lands.
Does a fetch land activate this? No, right? Fetch land is pay life. So no, okay. So it doesn't do that.
damage.
But like a couple deserts will get them, right? So
This sounds like Richard. Have you gone soft? Do you dislike curses? I remember
I actually dislike curses. Like I think it's a fun mechanic
What?
for Commander.
Why? I think curses or aura, whatever you want to call these specific things that target one player. I think that they
let's
are
say there's a 7 mana
hilarious.
spell that's like kill one player. Would you play that? Like it seems like
Yes. It's hatred
Kinda rude.
is kill one player.
yeah, we gotta pay your life for hatred at least, right? Like,
Yeah, there's some
it's like-
cost. I'm
There is a
kind of with Richard. I remember we learned that about that 1 mana red curse. What is Curse of
Yeah.
Opulence that
Curse
Tomer
of
always
No,
would
it's
play?
3.
Where,
yeah.
like it just ends up like killing the one person, and then I end up feeling bad about it. So I think the way Curse is playing Commander, I don't really like it either. But this
Okay,
card's still
well,
kind of sweet.
I love how Curse is playing Commander because you very much so have burned a bridge that game. Like it's
Yes, you
It
have.
was
like,
all about creating hateful feelings in forever.
yeah. Dude, I think I remember, what is it, the whatever, the most recent Innistrad or the curse that is like Ragavan when you attach it to someone. I thought that one was also hilarious. Richard hated that.
That's
And I'm
even
like, yo,
worse
what?
because, like, even if you don't want them dead, you got to start hitting them for value, right? You're like, well, you know, you're my friend and all, but I got to hit you. It's for value.
Look
right?
what you made me do. Look what you made me do.
All right, Hedge Shredder. This like confuses me because I see Ledger Shredder or something. 2 green. It's an artifact vehicle, 5/5. When it attacks, you may mill 2 cards. Whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from your library, put them onto the battlefield. Prue 1.
Isn't this card insanely busted?
This card is nuts.
Any land you mill,
Is it
you just put into play tapped.
Yeah.
for standard or for
separate clauses.
Commander?
Dude, I think
Oh.
across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of anywhere. I mean, you gotta
Yeah.
build around it, right? You can't just jam it in a deck and get value out of it. But if you build around it, I feel like standard, Commander, it's just like such a powerful effect.
Yeah,
Is there
it's
some
every
self-milling engine that you can play this on turn 4 and immediately mill and ramp?
I mean, there's gotta be. I was thinking more like, so you play this and then just play like Jace Perfected Mind, mill yourself for 15, put 7 lands into play, or like it seems so easy to just turn this into the like craziest ramp spell of all time. Plus, in Commander, there's already decks that do that. If you're playing Sidisi or Madrolth or any sort of like self-mill deck, isn't this just like ridiculous? Because like every land you mill, you're just getting on the battlefield. Plus, you can throw in like Splunkings or Amulets and like turn it into a combo piece. I would play this if it was not a vehicle. Like, I don't think you should ever crew this. I think that you just want that static ability. Like, the crewing is a trap because then your opponent might kill it.
It's a crew 1. So it's like a 4-mana 5/5 almost too, right? So when it's safe, you can just smack face and then like ramp 1 or 2 with the mill on the attack.
With a mill 2, you probably hit a land. Yeah.
I think this card is, it's absolutely nuts in Standard because there's already a deck that can play this. And it's the Cruel Somnophage deck, right? You have that. You have the Iridescent Vine Lasher version that also has like Lumra, all of that. Like, there's so many decks that already exist in this Standard that this can just slot right into. Hey,
but
wait,
is there a point,
this
though?
mean? Yeah. No,
how about I mean, if you're like aggro deck or mid-range deck, like just ramps 4 or 5 on turn 4, like is that useful? Do we have?
I mean, aggro maybe not so much, but mid-range or control, then I think whoever has the most lands usually wins in those type of. You can do multiple things because your hand's always full these days. There's so much card advantage that whoever can deploy their cards faster is going to pull ahead. So I think having double mana or whatever is like super powerful.
But you use like 2 cards to put this combo together though, right?
Yeah.
Like if you play Hedge into Jace, like you just spent 2 turns not affecting the board, are you still alive?
What about Jace Vine Lasher? Just a single Vine Lasher, right? Like there's so much. There's
and then
so
Grievous
much
Wound, so each trigger gets half their life total. We got a stew going.
Yeah, 4-card 20-mana combo. I think we broke it. I think we did it.
I think Hedge Shredder is going to be more than that, though. It's so powerful, and the thing you're not thinking about is how the lands in this set are like Fountain Port. Then you can get back your demo fields. You can get back your creature lands, right? There's so many good lands in this Standard, like utility lands, and just getting them all back is so nice.
That is true. It also works with like Entomb effects. Like it doesn't have to be milling anything that goes graveyard. So you can, someone brought up Realms Uncharted, like the gifts ungiven for lands that people were so hyped about, but then it flopped. So you tutor for 4 lands, 2 go to your hand, 2 go to the graveyard. The graveyard ones go into play, or Entomb to get your, I don't know, Maze of Ith, Richard. Think about that in Commander. Think of all the shenanigans.
I don't like lands deck, Seth. This is my conclusion. Let's say a lands deck is Standard viable. It's always a miserable time because there's no recourse for it, right? Like, there's no LD. So, like, once they do the thing, you're done. So I don't like lands decks. So I
at least this one does get got by the graveyard. So that is a bit of good news with how this one's worded. But yeah, you are right about lands in general. That's why we need Blood Moon in Standard.
Okay. No, that's the end of this podcast.
See you next week.
I mean, next week the Sunspine Lynx is still here, right? So if you have a good turn with Head Shredder, you might just die if they're not all basics.
If you run too hot, you may get got.
Fly too close to the sun, Krim. Speaking of which, how about more Laylines? Do we like Laylines? We got 3 Laylines to talk about. Leyline of Resonance, 2 red, so 4 mana enchantment. If it's in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only a single creature you control, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy.
I think this card's busted.
We all know where this is going in Standard, right?
Busted.
Well,
yeah,
actually,
is it busted?
Is it good? I thought about it at first. Like, my initial reaction was like, oh, this is insane. Monstrous Rage, do this, that. Yeah, oh my God, that's going to win the game. And then I realized the games where you don't have that, and now I'm just sitting. I loaded 4 Laylines into my deck.
You're going to draw 3 Laylines.
Stone Cold do nothing. And my favorite thing, unless it's Leyline of Sanctity, don't worry, boo, I got you. I will never speak ill of you. But outside of Leyline of Sanctity, every other Leyline that I draw after the first one, it's like, oh man, it feels
The risk.
bad.
That is true. Drawing multiples is bad. I don't actually know, like, in Standard, how necessary it is. So the upside of this card in Standard, there's a lot of turn 3 kill decks with like Heartfire Hero, Monstrous Rage, maybe the Fling effect. This is, with one of these, you turn those into turn 2 kill decks. It's actually pretty easy. There's many combinations of cards that let you just turn 2 kill with this in a couple of pump spells in Standard. Is it necessary in Standard to speed that deck up by a turn? I don't know if it really is. Like,
When you say
is it worth?
necessary, what do you mean by that though? Because like, is it necessary in that like design wise? Why would you allow that to happen? Or like,
Does the deck get
like,
better?
Is it worth?
Does it
is it
counteract
worth
getting scuffed?
Is it worth giving up some consistency to kill one turn faster? And I'm not sure in Standard it matters, because I think if you can kill someone on turn 3 in Standard, you're probably doing just fine. I don't know if you need to play this card that makes your deck more explosive but less consistent to have like a 20% chance of killing on turn 2 instead of turn 3. I don't know if that really matters that much in Standard. I think it matters a lot in Modern and Pioneer, where gaining 1 turn is like the difference between winning and losing a lot of times. So I'm actually higher on this in like prowess decks in Pioneer. I think pulling off the turn 2 kill, it's going to be a great video, right? The turn 2 Standard kill.
What
That's
video?
Like,
you mean the
title.
5-minute video because you've killed numerous
5
people?
That's all you need. That's all you need.
You mean the Twitter post of the game?
Yeah,
it's just
like
You've made a short, Seth.
It's flashy. It's clickable. It's like, it's cool, but I don't know how necessary it really is for Standard. But I think in Pioneer and Modern, it is necessary. And gaining that 1 turn is the difference between like getting in under a Wrath or getting in before your opponent's combo and not. And we've seen Leyline of the Guild Pact, which is a very inconsistent card, dominate Modern.
But
so this does something
upside
when
of
stacked,
Leyline,
right? If you get 3 of them, you're cooking, right? Like in your own hand, because you quad basically a spell you cast. So unlike all the existing ley lines where if you get 2 of them, it's just redundancy for when they kill or bounce yours. This thing stacks. Power level aside, this is the most terrible gameplay mechanic I've ever seen. I don't know why they keep making ley lines. Like, let's add more variance to our game where depending on how you draw, you get 4 free mana, right? Or, you know, if you don't get that, let's scuff all your draws by drawing unplayable bricks, right? So I don't know why they keep doing this. I'm actually curious. Can you build a deck that wins spending like a single mana or no mana in Modern or Legacy now, like with some consistency? Because soon enough, we won't need to spend any mana. Just play like 3 ley lines and a free spell and you win the game somehow, right? Like, there's gotta be. We're getting there. There's so many ley lines and free spells now. Like, we're getting close.
Richard, my answer to that is very simple. Yes, you can technically build that deck. But if it is consisted entirely of ley lines, did you actually mean to say win in the same sentence? Because you have a deck full of ley lines.
It's getting
you
there.
have a deck full of ley lines.
Okay, there's got to be like, so you play. It's like there's a chancer that makes a token, right?
Yeah,
like a 1/1, and then you like quad Leyline of Resonance, play 1 land, like Giant Growth, haste it in or something. Like, there's got to be some way to do this.
Invigorate. That's a spell that doesn't cost any mana. Put it on the Goblin token.
like we're getting there.
Mutagenic Growth
to play Magic anymore.
Mutagenic Growth. Yeah.
Ooh.
It might be possible.
There it is. There it is. The next Modern video. You got it.
Wait, Invigorate, Mutagenic Growth, triple ley line, and the Chancellor. There we go.
Yeah.
We did it.
We have it. We built the deck.
What happens if they answer the 1 token you've got? Modern, a very
next.
That's because your opponent spent 1 mana. You spent 0. They deserve to win, right?
You know what? Actually, it'll be exactly like that. Seth, what's that deck? The Lizard from Forgotten Realms. It's the 1-drop where if you have like it's like a
something of the mighty, the one that puts a dragon into play. If you have
puts a dragon
or whatever. Yeah.
You just go for the 1-turn kill. It's like that. Anytime you remove that lizard, that deck just goes next.
Yeah,
and I love that.
All right, we're gonna breeze through the other ley. So there's a blue ley line that like makes everything a creature type. And then there's
Arcane Adaptation, the ley line.
Yeah, there's a green one where you can pay Wooburg instead of the mana cost for spells. So there's a bunch of weird ones that are clearly made for Commander.
Whoa. Hold on. I genuinely think the blue one, I would keep an eye on that. I don't know if that's a Commander one because I think that is genuinely a good card. Arcane Adaptation in a format where you have, hypothetically, you have Cavern of Souls, you'll have Kaido. If you can make, like, remember, you get a free emblem if you just activate Kaido. Am I going to have
is that though? Then your deck is unplayable trash. Like that's the problem with Arcane Adaptation, right?
Line.
Like if you don't draw it and then you played all these weird cards, you're like, wow, this is weird. None of this works until I get the Arcane Adaptation down, right?
I agree with Grim, but for a very different reason. I don't think you can play it fairly. I'm skeptical of the like play it to make my Kaido emblem better plan or whatever. But I do think there's like a million combos with Arcane Adaptation, and the difference between having to spend 3 mana on it on turn 3 and starting with 1 in play might make some of those combos actually viable in like Modern or whatever, just by like speeding them up enough to make them work.
All right.
I mean,
I hope everyone's mulligan game and hyper geometric calculator is good, because you gotta start calculating how many mulls you go down until you get your ley line, and whether you can still win the game after mulling to 2 to get that ley line of the void. You know. Okay, reluctant role model, 1 in a white, 2/2, human survivor. Survival. At the beginning of your second main phase, if it's tapped, put a flying lifelink or +1/+1 counter on it. When it or another creature you control dies, if it had counters on it, put those counters on up to 1 target creature.
This is such a good 2-drop.
Is it playable though? Can it survive the attack?
So
I mean, if it does, I think
this is you don't need it. Okay, here's how you play this card. You already have Warden of the Inner Sky. You already got the Convoke, like Night Air Navios, Wandering Rescuer. So I think you tap it once with one of those effects to give it flying, and then you can snowball it by attacking with it every turn if you don't want to. You can tap it to a vehicle. You can tap it to a saddle creature.
Vehicle is nice.
So
battle.
I think I think the card's actually really strong because
I think the card is strong. And I, one thing you left off that is that what is the most popular answer in this standard right now from White? It's Get Lost. The map putting counters on your creatures is or like a risk of putting counters on your creatures is a strong crackback.
That last ability is actually kind of wild. If your opponent's trying to deal with your stuff with like that removal that destroys it, it still gets wrecked by like temporary lockdown or sunfall or whatever, but it's going to make targeted removal really miserable because your opponent kills it and you just move the counters to the next thing and they kill that and they move to the next thing. So I think the card's actually very powerful in those Convoke decks.
I can't play this card because it ruins my immersion. Doesn't this feel like a Doctor Who, a Walking Dead? It's like some random guy in like a vest and like, modern day looking glasses and stuff. It just looks like some guy that's out of place in my fantasy universe. So
have you not ever seen a Ghostbusters? Have you not seen
This is Ghostbusters? No.
But like, have you not seen a movie in general with any horror? Like there's always a survivor.
Yeah, I get that the guy looks like this, but my immersion, this is my fantasy realm, Like, why is there...
Your immersion?
Yeah.
Your immersion, Richard.
Everyone who hates Universes Beyond because of immersion, there's no way they can like this reluctant role model, right? There's no way. It looks like a Doctor Who guy. It's like just totally out of place.
Okay. I have to ask this. How does Kamigawa not ruin your immersion?
I don't know. I don't know. It didn't.
I understand.
Someone tell me why. Like, this one just looks very egregious to me, but like Kamigawa looked fine. It looked like fantasy-ish. This is just like guy down the street, hipster in the coffee shop.
Fantasy.
He kind of looks like Shahar Shenhar, I think. That's what I first thought of. But also, what is this weapon he's carrying? I don't understand that either.
Is that an axe?
Like, why do they all have like hockey sticks?
That's an axe. No?
Is that a magical axe of some kind?
That is a weapon. That is just any
Sort
kind of
of.
weapon you can find.
It's just a weapon.
What's that Game Boy attached to his chest? Though? That's my real question. like what is
okay,
that?
so that could be a bunch of things, right? That could be like a ghost detector, right? An EMF or something like that.
Ghost detector.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude.
You know, good thing I just watched the new Ghostbusters on Netflix. So I know what you're talking about. But
there it is. Like, it could be any one of those. I mean, like, I don't know what it actually is. It could literally just be a Game Boy if you wanted. I don't really care.
what was that movie where the guy had the power glove? Remember like the Nintendo Power Fist thing? And then there was like a movie.
Ready Player One or something?
No. It was like an ancient movie. But like he actually ran around with like the Nintendo accessory on his thing. All right. Split up. 1 white sorcery. Choose one. Destroy all tapped creatures or destroy all untapped creatures. Is this the wrath we're looking for?
Dude, this card is so good. I think this card is so good at 3. Okay, actually, it is very good, but temporary lockdown is right there. But the problem is temporary lockdown does not take out creatures and things over 2. So this is very good, a strong sweeper, obviously aggressively costed, but it does require deck building. Like this is going to be a fun standard where deck building is going to be weird. I like playing lots of 1s and 2s, and with how the power is spread over a bunch of different cards, it actually is acceptable that I can play a bunch of 1s and 2s. Like I could now play 2 temporary lockdowns, maybe 2 split ups, something like that.
It's not
unless
Commander
some
Crim. Consistency. Why are you
One of
playing
each.
all these
But-
one-ofs?
Okay, look, I'm not gonna lie to you. Is it because I love like seeing Giamwafatapa and like Shota Yasuoka's deck list, and they be running one of spell snares, and they always have it. So look, I just want to say that I think that this format, there are enough good answers across the board where maybe split up isn't fully going to do what temporary lockdown does, but it may. But in the situations where that falls short, it makes up for it in others. Being able to pick up, like, I don't know, that's a Shealdred that they are not attacking with. People, like, because I play Not on My Watch, they know not to attack into it. But if they don't attack, that means it's untapped, so now I can catch them with this.
So you like this in a control kind of deck? Like,
Oh, yeah.
See,
what about a
the
mid?
funny thing
What if
is-
you have creatures? Can you somehow finagle this to make
yeah.
this an
and then it's-
asymmetrical wrath? Like in a mid-range deck, you can play
100%.
this?
Yeah, you could also play it in a token deck, right? Like, or the aggro deck, right? The mono white deck. Look, I'm always going sideways, and that should be fine. And whatever I lose, that's the trade-off. But then I get to pick off all your things.
Yeah, that's where I'm more hyped about it, actually, is I think being able to break the symmetry in a deck with creatures, in a control deck, like, it's fine, I guess, but it's like a wrath that isn't always going to kill everything, which isn't a deal breaker or anything, because it's only 3 mana, but I think it's really interesting that you can break the symmetry of it. In aggro, you can be attacking with it, you can, like the Convoke decks, you can just Convoke to tap down your creatures, theoretically for free, and then cast this to wrath away the board, like, of your opponent's stuff, so there's a lot of, like, neat synergies. So I actually really love the design on this because it's another card that's like, it looks like a wrath, but it actually has a ton of play to it and a ton of like decision making, deck building that's going to go into like how good this card's going to be in your deck.
It's going to be such a blowout. That's going to be so funny when I have to stand there. And remember how it's like people are always like, oh, I have to be careful how I swing into Settle the Wreckage. Well, I have to be careful how I swing into this now, right? If I'm in an aggro mirror and I full send and they are not dead and they untap and just one-sided wrath me, oh Lord, I am so sad. So there is a lot of play to this card, and I really like that.
Seems like too much work. I mean, I could see it in the token deck where you can just Convoke your stuff in wrath, but every other deck, you got to jump through so many hoops, and then it's just
This
like
is 3 mana. This is not that many.
but you had to
hoops,
jump
dude.
through all the hoops. Like you had to like
What
do the
hoop?
setup. You need to like maybe chump attack or something. Like it's not as straightforward, and you can just play like an Exile Wrath or something, right? To get all of the shenanigans. So this
Those
one, I
aren't
don't know about a
3
control
mana.
deck, but I like the token
they
Convoke
aren't
deck.
3 mana, Richard.
Would you play this in
Yeah.
Commander?
Never.
I kind of feel like I wouldn't play
Yeah.
this in Commander. Like,
not?
basically, I need
it
a
needs
very
to be a
specific
combo
reason.
piece. Yeah, like you
Yeah.
play the what is that, Hilda's Crown or whatever? Like it was one of those kind of
Oh,
decks.
right. Yeah.
Like
Some sort of
you
tap
can
down thing.
do it, but we have a 3-mana destroy literally everything in our Revelation, so I would just.
But what
take
about the
that.
backup? Also, this doesn't kill your stuff. Like, I'm looking to add this definitely into my humans deck. This looks so good.
I mean, I think that
Yeah.
might be like those kind of decks like could be worth it. If you can make this a Plague Wind, then it's obviously absurd.
If this was an
So if you
instant,
can like attack and then do it.
because
Oh.
because you attack and then they block and then you wrath, which is like not ideal, right? You kind of want to clear the big stuff and then attack, so the timing is super weird. But if you could somehow do this at instant speed, then it's absurd, right? Because then you
Richard,
attack,
are you
wrath the
asking
blockers.
for a better Settle the Wreckage?
I mean, Settle the Wreckage is basically unplayable, so yeah, we could power creep that a little bit, right?
No, dude, I guarantee you in this standard format, like, okay, maybe not in this standard format. You may not live to settle.
All right, the Mind Render. Wait, it's the Mind Skinner. Blue. It's a 10/1 legendary enchantment creature nightmare. The Mind Skinner can't be blocked. If a source you control would deal damage to an opponent, prevent that damage, and each opponent mills that many cards.
Mind Render, Mind Skinner, Mind whatever.
So Mind Render was, I
Irrelevant.
think, the Goldfish translation. The official
Yeah,
is
that was
Mind
before we got the
Skinner.
official.
Yeah.
Mind
So-
Friend, the Mind Goblin. This card is this is amazing. I love this card. This card is awesome. Holy mother of God, I love this card. It's sort of body and mind on a body. It's so sick. And it's whenever a source would deal damage. Baby, oh God. I know I could do damage prevention. I can skull crack. I can hit somebody for 10, and maybe I think they still milled. I think that is irrelevant to me. The point here is the milling. I love this card for the mill. It is unblockable. It does in standard, it doesn't get cut down.
It's true. 10 power. It's safe.
At 10 power, you are so safe from cut down. But yeah, like it does kind of just get shocked immediately. But that's minor details. Don't play this against the red deck. I think this card is sweet. This is a 3-mana 10/1. And like, if this is your commander, it'll never deal commander damage, but you will mill. Because it is each opponent. Each opponent because somebody got hit.
Sort of body and mind on a 10/1. I don't know.
Is this card standard playable, Krim? Is there any way we're milling people with this in standard?
Seth, you are asking the wrong man here, because I will put this in my standard deck. And I will. You're talking to the man that hit so much copium that he tried to force himself to believe that Jace the Living Guild Pact was good.
So you forced yourself to believe that sort of body and mind is good. You still
No,
choose.
that's just true. That's just true.
That's just
Seth.
true. I
Okay,
see.
that is
I'm
just
sorry.
fact. Okay, I will not stand for that slander. But I will sideboard this, because in the grindy matchups, I'm gonna removal check you. I'm gonna removal check you. Think about this. If I am getting 3 mana, I pay 3 mana, and then I play this, and then let's say the 4-color ramp deck does not have an answer, and if their answer is Sunfall, they are in so much trouble.
They just milled
Because-
10. They have a 60-card deck. Like,
No.
this is fundamentally bad, right? Because to mill someone out, you need
Richard.
to mill 60. That means
Richard.
you dealt 60 damage and prevented it. You could have killed them for a third of that, right? Like,
You don't need to. You don't.
What?
Their deck naturally mills themselves because they draw so many cards from Beans, Atraxa, all these different things.
if they
are
drew 50 cards and couldn't kill you, and then the Mind Skinner is what does them in, I feel like there's easier paths to this if you're going to try to.
I
just
mean, you
build
play
10.
this with Jace. You are genuinely, I cannot tell you this how many times. This may seem like a meme, but as the control deck, I usually do not beat them by, like, I don't know, removing all their stuff. I let them play all their stuff, and I just mill them out.
But you have to hit them.
I mean,
for
Krim
10
is not
damage.
wrong with
You
so
gotta hit them, though.
Jace is probably better at that than Mind Skinner, because it's not a creature that can die. But Krim is right with my experience would back up what Krim is saying about how those matchups play out. I wonder though if we can just build a mill deck. Like, could we build just a mill control deck with like this and Jace? You got Founding of the Third Path. Like, is there any way there's a dedicated mill deck and not just like, oh, I have a mill backup plan in my control deck or whatever?
A dedicated mill
beaters
plan
in
is
your
going
mill
to be
deck?
interesting.
Like if
Is
there was
what?
like a 5/5 that like milled 15 when it attacked, and then you hit them and
Vantress
mill an additional
Gargoyle.
5, like okay, I can see that, right? But like
Vantress Gargoyle.
if your
too
goal is to
early.
hit them with this 10-1, like that's half their life anyway. Like why are you even trying to mill them at that point, right? So
Well, but it prevents all the damage.
Yeah.
So they don't take damage from it.
but you have
Or
to
you
deal
could play
10.
Sunspine Links.
Sure.
I mean, remember this is
I like
3 mana,
Skullcrack
so like
plan.
there's no way that they would print a 10 powered 3-drop if it wasn't preventing the damage. So I don't think that like, oh, you could just deal 10 with your 3-drop really lines up, because like what card can I do that with? I don't think
But you're
another card
planning on
exists that
hitting
can
with
do
this
that.
10-1 twice? I'm gonna assume you have other sources of damage to help you get this done, right?
Yeah, I think
mean-
you need to back it up. There's still Treesian Mindbreaker too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you play that, you mill yourself, and then you go blue-black mill. You might even, if you wanted to, I tried using Scavenger's Talent as a way to get to mill. Because if you level that up, it's the black talent cycle of the talent cycle from Bloomborough. And if you level that up, you get to mill as well. So there's a lot there. I think maybe mill. Okay, I don't know how mill beats mono red. I'm just gonna. They're just on a
Never.
prayer, right?
They're
They're
10-1.
gonna hope that
Orcish
10-1's getting
Bowmasters.
shocked. I'm sorry, in a red deck that 10-1's getting shocked so fast. Like, oh god. I'll take the go for the throw, but I just can't emotionally deal with getting like a shock.
All right, you guys are cooking. I want to see this mill deck. I want to see this mill deck.
We're gonna
the day
make
the
it happen.
10-1,
Easy.
the triple blue 10-1 is playable. I'm gonna give you the props if you can pull
Playable
this
or
off.
standard legal? Because I will put it in decks. I will put it in decks.
Wait, what is this last card? Abort.
I gotta-
Optimus. That's
I gotta know really quick about this one. I gotta know if you think it's good, because I've been going crazy all day.
okay. 2 and a blue, 5/5. The creature type is I. It's just an I. As an additional cost to cast the spell, exile 6 cards from your graveyard, flying. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, manifest dread.
Is this like the most busted card in the set, or is it completely unplayable? So if you read
Completely
3 mana
unplayable.
5/5 manifest dread every single turn, that's ridiculously off the charts. That's so power creepy. But then I think of Scab
You need
Ruinator. If you
Yeah,
lived
that's
through
what I'm
Ritual
talking- remember Scab?
Innistrad, and
That
when
was like
that
a
was like
3 mana 5/6 or
$50 and
something?
people were so 3 mana 5/6 flyer, and you can even cast it from your graveyard, but you had to exile 3 creatures from your graveyard to cast it. I'm afraid this is going to be the same thing. I think this is going to be like the $30 card that's actually unplayable in the end. Am I missing something though? Is there some way this is better than Ruinator and can actually be played? Or is it
Dude,
just a
this-
deal breaker that you got to exile 6 cards?
This is so bad for how much you have to work for.
You need to untap
Like,
with it too. You don't even
Yeah,
get
you
the
have to
manifest dread.
first off, before you even have the privilege of like even having it removed, you have to exile 6 cards from your graveyard. In the world that you're talking about that this is busted, you are playing it on turn 3. That is never happening.
But it's just a
That
3
is-
mana 5/5. It's not even like that crazy, right? Like
No. Okay.
if your
I-
opponent
I
has instant speed
miraculously-
removal, it dies to Doomblade, right?
Sure, right.
3
Like,
mana
if it dies
5/5
to
flyer
Doomblade-
is pretty good.
If
But
it
you have to
dies,
jump
then
through all
that's
these
fine.
hoops though.
Yeah,
You
that's
do got to
the
jump through
problem.
hoops. I
The
mean, the
hoops-
cards exist to cast it on turn 3, but you have to like Seed of Innocence or whatever on turn 1 to mill 2 into like Founding the Third Path on turn 2. So the math works, but then your opponent plays Rest in Peace or Leyline of the Void, or you don't draw those cards, and then you have this card that you can just never cast. What about Commander? It triggers each opponent's upkeep. That means for 3 mana, you get a 5/5 flyer, and every turn cycle, 3 2/2s that maybe you can even flip up into something better. That's 11 power for 3 mana every turn cycle. It's like a Tender Shoot Riot or something. Still no?
In
fine.
Commander, this is a different story. In Standard, I am talking that this is unplayable. Okay,
No.
unless
Oh,
So I
look,
see
I
it in a
want it.
control deck. Krim, would you play this in a control deck where on turn 5 or 6 you play this as your finisher with counter magic up? Like,
Richard, what?
or is this too
I'm
jank?
playing the Mind Goblin or whatever for my three drop. That's my 3-drop control finisher. Why would
You're
I
not
play?
finishing anything with that one, but yeah. I can see you playing this on turn 6 or 7 or something as your finisher, but like, is this the best you could do for a finisher? Like, I feel like this is kind of sus, right? Like, I feel if you're gonna wait this long, you could finish with something stronger, but there's no way you curve out. Like, even if Satyr Wayfinder was in the format, this would probably be unplayable, right? Like, you have to get the 1, 2, 3 exact curve to make this work, and even then it dies to go for the throat. Like, that seems incredibly sus. Also, the second one sucks, right? Let's say you abort Oculus, they go for a throw, you're like, cool, play the second one. Oops, I can't because I already exiled 6 from my graveyard, right? So this can't.
They do actively kind of cannibalize the next copy.
Yeah.
But the one thing that's nice is Manifest Dread does, if you do get to actually keep it, Manifest Dread, I think something that people are often overlooking is that it's not like you look at the top 2 cards and the other one goes to the bottom of the deck. The other one goes to your graveyard.
Fuels it. Yeah.
So it's fueling future. What about this, Grim? We have helping hands in Standard, and we've seen some of those like haughty Jin style decks. Like, this has got to be one of the best unearth creatures, right? You get for 1 mana, you end up with a 5/5 flyer that starts manifesting dread. So I wonder if a deck like that, maybe you can just kind of like avoid the downside and just try to put it into play from your graveyard for 1 mana.
I guess my question to that though is, all right, so you have 4 Monastery Mentors, you have 4 Jins. How many
3 drops? Yeah,
that's a lot of 3 drops, right? And
yeah,
those 3 drops will win the game much faster than this will. Mentor will win the game. Jin will also win the game. This will win the game eventually, over time. But, I mean, can you afford to add a few copies of this card in that deck? Maybe. If there is a shell to play this deck in Standard, it might be the Helping Hand deck. I think that is the deck for this card. But it is specifically just that deck. Otherwise, you have Picklock. That deck has like 4 Picklock Pranksters. And I don't think you're reanimating that. That's actually fueling your graveyard nonsense. So there has to be something to cut, and I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, finding room for it might be a problem, but I do think this synergy is sweet. Plus, imagine like manifesting dreading like a Haunty Gen and just flipping up like a 11 power flyer and one-shotting, like pretty sweet.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Giant eyeball. It's
super great. We didn't even make you look at the creepiest cards, Richard. We were nice. We just focused on the good cards.
I don't mind giant eyeball. That just looks like Dungeons and Dragons. That's fine. That's fine.
A raw form of it, but yeah.
Anyway, I think that brings us to the end of our podcast for today. No fish mail this week. I promise we're going to get to some soon. Maybe we'll do a whole fish mail cast at some point once we're out of spoiler season. But Richard, how do people send in their fish mail for the future?
Joke's on you. We're never out of spoiler season. But you can send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions when we're out of spoiler season.
Which I guess means never, but we'll get to them sometime, I promise. But anyway, everyone, that brings us to the end of episode 501 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So Richard, Grib, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we'll be back next week to talk about the rest of Duskmourn and whatever else goes on in the world of Magic. So until then, have an amazing week, everyone. And this is the crew signing out.